Hey, what's going on, guys? So, I was not the world's biggest fan of Matt Reeves' The Batman.
You what?
I know that is absolute heresy among the DC fandom and the Batman fandom, respectively. I didn't think it was a bad movie at all. I just feel like it was an interesting choice to follow up the previous Batman franchise, whose thesis was, what if Batman existed in the real world? And it was like a grounded, gritty crime drama with, what if Batman existed in the real world and it was like a grounded, gritty crime drama? But this one's different because Nirvana's doing the soundtrack instead of Nickelback this time. I don't know, I just feel like everything that needed to be said with the whole Batman in the real world premise has already been said, but that's just me. So, when it was announced that there was gonna be a Penguin series bridging the gap between the events of The Batman and The Batman Part 2 Deftones Boogaloo, I rolled my eyes like a blunt, because now, not only are we getting more Batman, but it's a crime drama set in the real world. But this time, it doesn't even feature Batman, and they changed the Penguin's name because, I guess Cobblepot sounded too faggy. Hit the like button if you get that reference, by the way. So, despite all of the hype online, and despite actually really liking Colin Farrell's performance in The Batman, The Penguin was not on my radar. I didn't even watch the first couple of episodes when they aired, but my buddy from work, who's in the same boat that I'm in when it comes to The Batman, and honestly probably the VIP section, because at the very least, there are aspects of that movie that I appreciate. I think he said he got to the Rata El Lada scene, and when Batman couldn't speak Spanish, he just took the entire rest of the movie in bad faith. So I was surprised when he, of all people, was like, hey man, have you watched The Penguin yet? It's really good. So with a recommendation like that, from him, I had to see what was up. And from episode 1, I was not disappointed. So a while back, I did a video titled Let Bad Guys Be Bad Guys, because in a lot of recent superhero-related media, be it comic books, TV shows, movies, or what have you, Marvel and DC will bend over backwards to give them a redemption arc, or lean really hard into their tragic backstory like, look at this little sweet baby butterbean, they're not so bad, they're just misunderstood. Look, I grew up in Avatar The Last Airbender just like everybody else, but not everybody is Prince Zuko, alright? And the thing that's so refreshing about The Penguin is that our protagonist, Oswald Cobb, is just an absolute piece of shit. And the show always reminds you of that, even when it goes out of its way to show you his good side and, how much of a stand-up guy he can be. All of those good deeds are undercut by Oz throwing somebody under the bus to save his own ass, or kill somebody out of petty spite. I've seen a lot of people compare this show to The Sopranos, and I definitely see why. Colin Farrell's take on the Penguin is channeling James Gandolfini really hard. That was actually a big part of why I liked his performance in The Batman as well. But in the 8 or 9 scenes that he's in, he's always played for comedy. But here, when you're not looking at him through Batman's POV, he's actually pretty fucking scary. And again, much like The Sopranos, everyone in the show is a terrible person who's gaslighting themselves into believing that they're actually the good guy. And that shit makes for some excellent comedy, but it also builds tension. I'm always waiting for that next shoe to drop, because it's gonna. And when it does, everyone in the Penguin's orbit is applesauce. They're DOA. It's over. But that's the thing with this show. Every minute you're waiting for that shoe to drop is a minute where you're watching all of these people in Oswald's supporting cast grow closer to him, and they get more friendly, and you build camaraderie, and it's like watching a car crash in slow motion, but in the best way possible. And the show really hammers that home with Victor Aguilera, an original character created specifically for the show, played very well by Rennie Feliz, aka Alex from the Runaways TV show that Marvel wants everyone to forget about. Victor is a homeless teenager who lost everything in the 0-year no man's land war of bats and riddles flood, and he's kind of like the Penguin's Robin in a weird way, which is kind of funny considering that the Penguin got himself a Robin before Batman did in this real world grounded comic book cinematic universe. I do kind of wish that Victor was an actual comic book character, like maybe one of the kids from Ma Gunn School for Boys. That's where Jason Todd was first introduced in DC's post-crisis continuity. And here, Victor is introduced as trying to steal the tires off of the Penguin's car, much like Jason Todd in the comics. I don't know. I think that would have been a cool touch, even if he would have been one of those characters in name only. Which you can say for pretty much everyone in the show. Like, Clancy Brown's Salvatore Maroni isn't really anything like Salvatore Maroni in the comics. Michael Kelly's Johnny Vitti isn't anything like Johnny Vitti in the comics. Christy Miliotti's Sofia Gigante for damn sure isn't anything like Sofia in the comics. And neither is Michael Zegan's Chad Thundercock take on Alberto Falcone, which normally I take issue with. But this is one of those rare exceptions where a lot of the comic book counterparts to the characters in the show are either nothing characters with 2 to 3 comic book appearances, or they're major characters in books that aren't really all that great in the first place, so doing literally anything else with them is an improvement. Sorry to everyone who read Long Halloween and Dark Victory when they were like 13 and didn't go back to them and still think that they're the best Batman comics ever written.
Why you pulling me? I'm right.
And speaking of, I really like Christian Miliotti's take on Sofia Gigante here. Something I actually really liked about the way she was reimagined within the context of the show was that in the comics, specifically Long Halloween and the follow-up Dark Victory, Sofia gets thrown out of a window and is left a paraplegic, except she's not. She was faking it the whole time, except for when she wasn't, because she was lynching most of the important characters from the Long Halloween as the Hangman Killer, and that was like her supervillain alias. But here, the concept of the Hangman is all bullshit. Sofia questions Carmine about her mother's suicide, and Carmine just strangles a bunch of people, mainly women. In fact, I think they're all women. Carmine in the Batman universe got that Ezra Miller riz. But he strangles all of these women and frames Sofia using the comic book iconography of the Hangman to do so. And she's locked away in Arkham for like a decade, which drives her insane. So by the time she's released, she actually sort of does wind up becoming a schizoid comic book supervillain. I also like that she was left alive by the end of the series. Batman villains on screen always seem to catch a case of the murder-manslaughter virus, and for a character who, at least from the 70s onward, has had 90% of his stories revolve around the question of wouldn't it be more effective to just kill your bad guys, it's kind of nice to have a franchise finally where the bad guys don't die, and they actually go to prison or Arkham so that they could potentially come back down the line and challenge Batman's notions of rehabilitation. But all in all, I really liked the show. And in a weird way, it actually made me a little more excited for the continuation of the Matt Reeves, Nolan 2.0, what if Batman existed in the real world epic crime saga. And again, this is a reinvention of the Penguin. This isn't comic book Penguin brought to life or anything. This is an original character, more or less, with the Penguin iconography painted on, but the character they built here is compelling in his own right, and he fits in a world where Batman can't speak Spanish, and the Riddler is an incel, and Joker looks like this. So, I liked it, but what about you? Let me know down below in the comment section. Also, if you like this video, hit the like button, share, support the channel, and if you want to see me talk more about stuff, hit the like button and subscribe. I'm the Mystical Green Beanie. Thanks for watching, and as always, until next time, take care, guys.